to our second edition of Marion County Hardball tonight. We are here with Thomas E. Davis, who is running for Congress in the next election. Again, we want to do a shout out and thank you to Ron and Charlene Hudson for letting us use their home. And of course to Sasquatch Farms for supplying this incredible equipment that we're using tonight. And with that, Rurik, and one other thing, we are interested in anybody that's running. We don't care what your party affiliation is. We want you to come on Marion County Hardball. So drop us a line in the Marion County Messenger, get in touch with me or with Rurik, and we will set that up for you. And with that having been said, I am going to hand off to Rurik, and Rurik, go from here.
Tom, thank you for coming.
Yeah, we appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you having you on the show. Now you're actually running for the Congress seat that Scott Desjardins has today.
Correct.
Okay. Well, let's kick it off with you telling us a little bit about yourself, and then why you're running. And after we're done with that, I've got maybe 10 questions I was going to ask. They're just more topic related. They shouldn't be very difficult.
Okay.
So
and I got to tell you before we start answering questions, I only take the easy ones. So.
Okay. All right, well, let me get them.
Okay. He's come to the wrong place, hasn't he?
Hardball.
But I got to set the ground rules. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. Good start.
No. So kind of the short of myself, I'm Christian, conservative, U.S. Army combat veteran, and then Republican. And that's kind of the easy way. I served almost 25 years in the Army. I served in a variety of different roles. My actual job was motor transport operator. I was a truck driver. And then got promoted sergeant. I was an NCO. I was enlisted. And leadership positions for almost all of those years. Even as a non-commissioned officer and then as a junior enlisted soldier also. So a lot of leadership position was put into a lot of positions specifically for that. I have the distinct honor, I guess, of 2 times having assumed platoon sergeant duties in a theater of operation. Once for Iraqi freedom and once for enduring freedom. Pretty uncommon. Typically you will train up with your, Some train ups are a little bit longer, some shorter, but typically you will know the guys of the platoon that you deploy with. So I said on 2 occasions, I got to pick up those duties in theater.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thanks for the support. And then, so almost 25 years, and then I retired from the Army in 14 and went home to Arizona, which is where I'm from originally, and worked as a city cop for about a year and a half, I guess it was. And then while at the academy, I was actually elected by my peers to be the president of Northern Arizona Regional Training Academy, NARTA. And so in that class, my peers elected me to be our class president. So I was leadership there. And that's a lot of my campaign is leadership. And then in 2017, moved to Morris. Well, actually, we moved into McMinnville proper to begin with. I was property manager for a little bit, and then actually quite a bit. But then in 2022, moved to Morrison, so all in Warren County. I moved here to be closer to family. And so then why I'm running is I was called to it. And it was see if I can get the condensed version so we can get the questions. But in 2023, on Memorial Day, my VFW post was responsible for the ceremony at the airport in Warren County, and they asked me to be the guest speaker. So I gave my speech, and it was a little atypical in that I wrote up my own and was, I don't know, it was very well received, but maybe controversial, if you will. And I thought, how better to honor those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice than to lay out problems that we're facing as a nation and solutions. Yeah. But at the end of that, my state representative, Paul Sherrill, asked me if I'd ever thought about going into politics. And my answer right there was no, I hadn't. But it I think that was planting of the seed. And so that year I was doing a lot of firearms training, And then at one point during that year, I was at Tactical Response in Camden, and one of the instructors there, Tim Morris, said, if you find yourself standing around thinking somebody should do something, that somebody is probably you. And so at that point, I was like, all right, and I had kind of been looking around, and so put a little bit more effort into how I was being represented. And I got to my congressional rep in Tennessee's 4th District of Congressman Scott DesJarlais, and was not super excited about what I saw. So that's what struck me and called into it, and that was, like I said, that was the final straw. I was like, all right, this is where I fit into this process of a continued really defending of the Constitution, and so that's where God said go. So here I am, and then had that first election, and then Colin's still there, and so a lot of lessons. I'm applying a lot of the lessons learned from that race now, and we're picking up and going.
So what's the keystone topic, before I get into these questions, that you don't like with what the existing congressman is doing? What were those things that made you want to be here right now?
My own, and then also what I hear. One is accessibility in the district. Congressman DesJarlais has not had a town hall since 2013. As the representative, I will hold them quarterly. And in fact, last weekend, or this past Saturday, I had one in Marion County, detention at the elementary, and it was, that one's up online. Warren First 931 hosted that one, okay. And then and the Patriot Punk, he's also he was there filming also. I know the Patriot Punk has got my portion up, and then I think is it Kelly Walker's daughter from Warren First. She's still, I haven't seen if she's put it up yet, but that's where those will be, and then I'll put them up on mine too. But so I've had that town hall, and we're already looking to schedule our next town hall. So that was one, is the accessibility within the district. And as I started doing this, and I started, I was calling, and I get the runaround to call. I call Murfreesboro, and be like, all right, where is my representative going to be? And they're like, I don't know, we don't keep his calendar. Call Washington. So I call Washington, they're like, we don't know. And initially I was told to try go to the Reagan Day, Lincoln Day dinners, and you'll probably find him there. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, maybe, except you have to pay to get into those. Some a little more pricey than others, but at the end of the day, I should not have to pay to have some type of access to my congressional representative. So accessibility was a big one. And some of the other votes that he's seen, or that I've seen, he has voted yes to transgender affirming care in the military, and that has absolutely no place in the service. At the end of the day, it is an elective procedure, and we, the taxpayers, should not be on the hook for it. A lot of different avenues for that. It's a detractor from the service, because now these folks are going to be non-deployable. They are going to be on medication that we, the taxpayers, are going to be paying for, and then probably even without any complications to any surgeries or side effects to drugs, they are on those for the rest of their lives. So it'll be a compensation claim, and we, the taxpayers, will be paying for it. And then, and kind of the other side of this you can see too, is that some risk to that individual within those units. Because there are those people that just can't control themselves, and that's a fact. So it's a horrible idea. And the justification we got was a pay raise for the military, which, having served almost 25 years, I'm good with some pay raises, but not at this. And I think for that, the particular one he was called on, that was like 5%. I'm like, you can keep your $35 or $40 a month, depending on where you're at in the pay scale for that. You just, no, hard pass, no, that's ridiculous. And then some other votes, and now in more current votes, he's now voting yes on these continuing resolutions, just lined up right behind him. And the first one we started getting, raised the debt ceiling. Horrible idea. We've now rolled into the $38 trillion in debt mark, and it's got to stop. We should be getting responsible, balanced budgets. All this money we're sending overseas should stop probably immediately, if not sooner. So, in fighting for that the financial or the fiscal responsibility that we as Republicans espouse. That's supposed to be one of our things, right? But here we are raising a debt ceiling, and you see this the words how they do it. So as the Democrats, the Republicans will rail against it and call it an omnibus bill, and we're going to pass it in the middle of the night. No, it's horrible. But then as Republicans, it's the exact same thing. They're raising the debt ceiling. The only argument in there is where we're going to deficit spend. But they'll call it a big, beautiful bill, and then they'll pass it in the middle of the night. And then now even this CR stuff. Like you guys, they took 6 weeks off over the summer. They had 2 weeks off in April. I think it's October typically that they'll have all the weeks filled. All the other months, there's only 3 weeks on the calendar. And then out of that, it's, maybe 3 days that they're actually working. Like in session. There's other stuff that kind of goes on behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, you guys knew this was coming. You passed the bill. You knew the fiscal year was ending. And then what do? We shut the government down for those 43 days. And it impacts people's lives. So it's just, to me, it's ridiculous how we're doing business up there. And he's falling right in line with it. Some other bills have been out there. That's those big ones.
Well, let me go through these real quick. I'll give you a see your mind's thinking about them. Abortion ban, term limits, Social Security, Ukraine funding, budget deals, immigration, FDA rules, Trump loyalty, and Obamacare. So let's start with abortion, if that's okay. So do you want the ban on all abortions with no exceptions for rape and incest?
I would say abortion ban for the exception. So I kind of like to do a baseline. So the baseline is, we stop the abortion. It's murder. And then we can start talking exceptions. And it should be life of the mother. If it's going to, and not like, hey, it's going to ruin my college life, but legitimately, if that bringing that baby to term is going to harm the mother. And that then can be more in line, or, mother and then doctor and family. But as a general rule, we should not be murdering babies in this nation.
Now, Congressman Desjardins voted for a 2022 bill that allowed for those exceptions. So you're okay, you would vote the same way then for rape and incest. Is that what I'm hearing, or did I hear what you said on that? In other words, rape and incest are the two that are the exceptions you would be okay with.
Depending on the viability of the baby.
Okay.
And I would back up a little more. Is this is kind of the way I have seen it, and I'm as I learn more about this and my own stuff. But this is where it should be, is at the states. So then the states should be handling it. So with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and we're seeing problems with it now, with the abortion itself. And especially because of the pill. And there's more abortions going on now than previously. And it's because of this pill. And then that pill is actually causing a lot of complications for the mother. Side effects on it, it's horrible. And I would be more inclined to, like you said, to stop them, and then just that medical exception.
Okay. And now each one of them, what I did is I looked up what Congressman Desjardins, how he voted, so that way you know what I'm up to. Term limits. Will you push for 12-year term limits on congressional services?
On myself, yes. That I've been very outspoken about that. 12 years is a personal, and the way I arrived at it is prior to the amendment restricting the president, they all lined up at 12 years. And so that was so it would have been 3 for the president, 2 in the Senate, and then 6 for the House. So that is my, and now to push for that as much as I could, sure. There's a constitutional convention going on right now to try and address that. The other side of that is that we as citizens have the opportunity. We have an election cycle, and we have allowed these folks to do this. And so you can look at both sides of it. Except me personally, 12. That's all you're getting out of me. And part of that is that belief, and then also you get to a point where, just like we're seeing now, you're falling in line and you're not looking constitutionally, and you're losing touch with what's going on. So you need fresh eyes. But I would definitely support that Constitution and conventions that's coming up, and even at that, that's more going through the state legislatures to do that.
I just wondered a little bit though about when you get into office, like your first term, 4 years. Well, yours would be every 2 years. So the first 2 years you're learning, the next 2 years you're learning, the next 2 years you're learning. You start becoming really good at it probably within your fourth term, would you say? I mean, I understand, and I'm with you as far as term limits in general, because we see, people make a career out of it.
Yes.
But I also see where if you don't have enough time in there, you don't have the experience, so it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So as the citizens, and again, if there's enough momentum in the nation to change the Constitution, then sure. But to try and legislate it, I think is not really ideal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constitutional thing, and it's set up already how to do that, and so it takes some of that responsibility away from us as citizens, which we have a part to play in this too, the state of this nation, because we do the same thing. The last couple of years we've had several of them die in office. I mean, even the judges, they can step down. That's a thing. But these folks get up there and want to I don't know what the appeal is. I just on this side of it, I don't get it. But I think that would have to be a constitutional change.
I did look up, as long as this data is correct that I've got from Google, that Congressman Desley has been in office since 2011 and hasn't supported term limits. So there's a difference there as far as with you. So that's one difference.
So he and I looked this up too. He initially ran on term limits, and it was 12 years. And he did initially, or he has pushed a little bit for them. So to his credit, I guess he has kind of looked into that. But it's been crickets for a number of years on his term limits, and this is his 8th term now. So, and that within 12 years was what he initially ran on. Yes,
wow.
yep, yes, sir. This is his 8th term.
Okay, the next topic is Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
Do you support raising the retirement age to save money?
I support we need to have some very difficult conversations about Social Security. I'll say up front, we can't just pull the rug out from underneath people, but this program is unconstitutional. And so we need to start a sunset on it. And again, we can look to fund some of this by not sending money to Ukraine. I'll give you a lead in on that. Not by cutting the stuff we're going overseas. Mm-hmm. But it's not up to the government under this Constitution to provide for you in retirement. It's up to them to set the conditions for it. And there's more to it than just you have to back it up into our schools, and then we have to be teaching our kids how money works, and that you are responsible for you. Now, there are those in a society that may not be able to support themselves, and that's a carve out. And I would even say that it's a state responsibility to do it, and not necessarily a federal responsibility to do it. Now, if we decide to continue with it, then it needs to be restructured. And we keep changing, moving the goalpost, changing the contract. So the money should come from somebody else other than raising it on, especially those that are in the window, if you will. Now, if you're just starting the workforce, you're 18, and that's where it comes. But we can't just people I'm 6 or 7, 8 or so years out from drawing it. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell somebody in their 50s, like, guess what? Now you're going to have to wait until you're 70. Yeah. Because to do that is ridiculous. And so to answer the question is we need to start having a plan to get away from mm-hmm. it, and raising, to changing those ages to save money on it is not the answer.
Okay. Yeah, and I always looked at Social Security. I could be wrong, but I like the idea of a lockbox. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. But I looked at it as an insurance policy for when I retire. I don't feel like it's their money. I'm just giving them the money to be able to borrow against, and that's been the problem, hasn't it?
Yeah, and how have they managed your money?
No, well, yeah.
our money, right?
Yeah,
It's
now
been
it
more.
becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I see that Congressman Desley opposes cuts to Social Security in his district. So, like I said, this is based on the internet. So,
Right.
Okay, Ukraine funding. Will you stop all future funding to Ukraine?
I will vote no on it. As one congressional rep, I don't have that control, but I will vote no, and then I will work within the party and with anybody, because with this, we have been warned by our founders about foreign entanglements, and we can look at our most recent history over the last 100 years and see where that has gotten us. It's horrible the way, and couple that with the state of the interior of our nation. So yeah, I would work tirelessly to stop funding, in particular to Ukraine, but across the board. We have got to stop the bleed. Is how it is, and that's everywhere it's going. Every dollar that's going overseas, initially should be stopped, and then maybe we can go back and take a look again at foreign entanglements that we have. And kind of look at it, is the juice worth the squeeze? And in a lot of cases, it isn't. What are we getting for our dollars? We send the money to NGOs, and then they fund the invasion that has been going on in this nation for a lot of years. And that's to the point now that we have been invaded. We have been flooded. The zone has been flooded, and now it's time to stop that bleed and take care of the problem. Get rid of all our illegals. Get rid of refugees. It's time to take care of America. Take care of Americans first.
Congressman Desley voted to send aid in 2022.
He did.
So, okay, budget deals. Should Republicans refuse to negotiate spending deals with Democrats?
So the only argument they have is where they want to overspend. The conversation should be, let's stop overspending and then deal with what we have. This is, and there are no, sacred cows, if you will. We need to take a look at our defense spending and again, all the, the overseas money, and get it back to a responsible, balanced budget. That, even right now, as a Republican, they're telling us we're going to cut $1.7 trillion, but that's over the next 10 years. Like, that's crazy talk. Like, you guys, you're not even stopping it now. You can't even stop now. It's, they're doing CRs, which is the previous overspending. All that money is still there. And now, as they just authorized this or extended this CR goes to January 30th. And my money is we're going to see another, the same shenanigans.
Yeah.
So what we should be doing is figuring out where we're going to cut. And these are tough conversations we need to start having, because either we're going to happen to it or it's going to happen to us. And then we look like Greece, or we look like, was it Venezuela? Or
capital control measures.
Yes.
And all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they've already told us, we're saying within 9 years that you're going to get a 30% cut in your Social Security. So we're going to, if we don't change course, then that's going to happen, and it'll probably happen sooner rather than later. So that's the conversation we need to be having, not necessarily to make deals. And the other side of that too is our omnibus or big beautiful bills. Stop that mess. Break these things out into individual bills, individual items, and then you can fight over whatever you're fighting over, but everybody else doesn't have to pay.
Yeah.
So that's more where the conversation should go, not, in my opinion, versus should we negotiate with where the stuff is going.
And if I'm wrong on anything with Congressman Desley, we'll welcome you on the show and you can correct us, but just what I'm getting off the internet. So I see that he voted on 2023 deal to avoid a debt crisis. So, okay, immigration. You kind of already touched on it. Do you support deploying aggressive deportation measures for all undocumented immigrants?
Yes. Absolutely. And this comes back to baselines. So that's the standard answer. And from there, maybe, we can maybe have some discussions. For example, that kid that was brought here at 2 years old that had no idea. And then we can have that conversation, because then you got to start, and there's nothing that says that they cannot go back home with their parent. But we get, like, they're separating families. No, nothing says they can't go back with their families, to include those, the anchor babies is our term, that were born here of illegal parents. There's nothing that says we can't, like, all right, that's the current law, which is something I would work to fix, is the birthright citizenship, because that was not the intent of the amendments to the Constitution. But until such time as we clarify it, this is where we're at. So nothing says we cannot give that family the documentation. Here's your birth certificate. Under our current law, this child is an American citizen. They go back with the parent, because we're not going to separate the families. And then when that child gets old enough, if they so choose, then all right, they have their documentation, then they come back to the States. But the immediate answer is everybody, if you're here illegally, the answer is you need to go away.
Okay, and Congressman Desley only backs standard border security. So, and again, I hope Google is right on this. I don't get anybody in trouble. FDA rules. Should we eliminate FDA drug approval rules?
I honestly hadn't really looked at that. I will tell you, constitutionally, we should not be mandating people to get vaccines. The FDA has done some questionable things, so we probably need to relook at it. And to include, and part of this FDA comes back to our current medical model and our pharmaceutical industry. And there are other homeopathic ways to heal ourselves and to do things, but because of an FDA approval, these things get squashed. And we've seen that in real time through the pandemic. So I would say any of these federal agencies, we need to take a look at, and either through the Congress and law, get rid of them or defund them and just drain, stop the bleed that way. Because again, this comes back to an individual responsibility and liberty. If the government is telling you what to do, then you're in a bad way. They do not always have our best interests at heart, and even some of them that are well-meaning get it wrong. So that's our own individual responsibility in a lot of this stuff.
So along those lines, I would like to ask where you stand on the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah, I'm for, and that's in part of my other issue with the CR that we just did, and it just irritates me to no end. They pitched it as a clean CR, like we're just doing it, and that wasn't even. There was issues with that too, because there was some additional security or money for security for congressional reps, but so it goes over to the Senate, and then they put in the hemp restriction, which is horrible. That's going to affect a lot of agriculture here in Tennessee. And to your point, there are some medicinal purposes with it. I am not a fan, but who am I to tell you that you can't grow your own stuff and smoke it or make it into gummies, and especially with the hemp. And that's a lot of this too is some history of it that hemp got put in with marijuana, and I think part of this too is our pharmaceuticals. Trying they want to be the only supplier of any type of relief, which is again bad. It doesn't work for everybody, as we've seen. We have an opioid crisis going on in this nation. But so and coupled with that, the ATF trying to grow its agency, we got to create a problem. So we created the problem of marijuana, and yeah. So I would be for getting rid of any type of restrictions on marijuana, hemp, and hemp is a much better product than cotton is, and it takes one extra step in there for processing, but it's far superior to cotton.
There's a lot of medical values.
Medical, yeah. There's I looked at this is some of the research I did on it too, like 25,000 uses for hemp. Fuels, medicinal. Clothing, soap. I mean, just
PTSD.
For that. hempcrete, I think they call it, but for
Yep.
construction materials. Yeah, hempcrete. And is it Mercedes and BMW? I think it is. I could be wrong on those, but they're, instead of fiberglass panels, they're hemp panels. Yeah.
So you can get high off your car? Or?
No. you know what? I don't know, man.
Sign me up for one of them.
If you're going to smoke a Mercedes, it's going to get awful expensive.
You're working on smoking.
So again, it comes back to liberty.
Yeah.
Like, why is the government trying to? And you know, you look at the marijuana and the use. Is it any worse than alcohol? Absolutely not, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm not advocating everyone to go get high or whatever, and I personally am not going to do it. But that's individual liberty. That's the founding of this nation. Is ultimately I'm responsible for myself.
Maybe it has something to do with taxes, being able to tax it as
yeah.
a revenue stream.
Yeah,
And probably is a big part of it. So, okay, next question is Trump loyalty. Will you exclusively endorse candidates approved by Trump?
No. In fact, that would exclude me from this race.
Well, that's true.
No.
I see that Congressman Desley backed some non-Trump Republicans in 2022. So
Yeah.
Obamacare. Should we repeal Obamacare without a replacement plan?
So this is another one of those deals that it should be repealed, replaced, maybe not so much. But we have to sunset this stuff, because again, in the Constitution, the government is not responsible for our health care. The federal government. You know, if states want to manage it, and now you can have some regulation if we're talking Commerce Clause, but the government should not be redistributing wealth, taking it and paying for those. Again, not to say we shouldn't help those that are a little less fortunate, but if you look at a lot of things across the board, why has our healthcare gotten out of control? It's because of government involvement. Because this is not something, especially the federal government, should be involved in. So it needs to be repealed, and not necessarily replaced, but phased out. Get the federal government out of our health care. And this goes back to a lot of like with the pharmaceuticals. And then those prices come down because you have more of a free market, and you can pay for what you need. I hear stories all the time about the difference in an MRI. I was talking yesterday to somebody that because they had insurance, they had no choice in the matter, but it was going to cost like $7,000 out of pocket. They're out of pocket for this MRI, these procedures. If they didn't have insurance, it would have been $200. But again, because the mandates that you have to have this stuff, then the prices go up, and it's just the government gets involved. And same thing, college tuition. This is another program. The government has no business backing any type of loans or giving any type of funding to these institutions. And one, it's a horrible product. Two, it's unconstitutional. So you get the government out, it becomes more competitive, because the government, the colleges now know, like, hey, the government's going to guarantee these loans for 18-year-olds that don't have jobs, and now getting degrees that are completely useless. So they jack the prices up. I mean, that's one of the things. It was like 2,100% over the last 20 years, I think. I could be a little off on the numbers there, but through everything, college tuition is just like increased drastically. It's out of control. So get the government out of it, and go back to if post-secondary is that important to you, figure out how to get there. And again, that with the government out, not providing these loans to those that probably shouldn't have them, prices come down.
So I keep hearing, I think I'm getting a good idea that what you're saying, what is the federal government in your thinking responsible for and to?
So what's in the Constitution, the contract we have laid out in the
Defense.
Constitution. Yeah, defense. Oh my God, there's the 18 things laid out in Article 1, Section 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just blown up too much.
It is.
And a lot of that's over probably power.
Yes.
You give a little bit here, a little bit there to the states, then they do, and will concede, and hey, you need to do as we tell you on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe a reset might not be a bad idea at this point.
No, and to be clear again, that with a lot of these programs, we can't just pull the rug. So we can't just come in tomorrow and be like, all right, Social Security, you're done, because that's a horrible idea too. But we have to have an extraction plan from that unconstitutional stuff. So we're not destroying lives as a government, which is the exact opposite of what we should be doing, is setting conditions for success or failure on your own. On your own, success or failure, that's up to you.
I did look this up based on the rating from CPAC. It said that Congressman Desley is still one of Tennessee's most conservative lawmakers, but he doesn't visit us much here in Marion County. We'd love to see him. So if elected, what I heard you say is you will.
Yes, quarterly, town halls, at least quarterly. And again, it's 15 counties, so I'm not going to have one every quarter in Marion County, but strategically kind of located so it's convenient. I'm not, not every time. I live in Warren County, so I'm not going to go to Warren County every time. But throughout the district, let everybody know that you want to come sit down and talk. Let's go. And that's everybody. We all want to be heard, regardless of party. And I have been clear on that too. Is that for town halls, it's a discussion, and if you want to come in and act like a child, we'll treat you like a child, and you will leave the discussion point blank. So if you're coming there just to rouse and just nonsense, not having it. I'll explain votes. I'll explain, and ahead of time I'm laying out my own personal beliefs. But I do understand I represent this district. So if the majority of the district veers off from some of my beliefs, especially with my Christianity, then we're going to have to part ways. So and again, every 2 years you have the option to make that choice.
I want to real quick, I've got a closing remark, but do you have any more questions? Or Ronnie, you want to throw one in there? You gotta behave yourself. Ma'am?
So I would ask this question. The United States masterfully avoided foreign entanglement from 1918 to 1941. And the end result was December 7th, 1941. And a horrible, bloody war that had we stepped in earlier, we might not have fought. So do you agree, even given that, you still say we should avoid all foreign entanglement?
We need to be very careful with it. And I would be more inclined to bring our troops home. Again, and as one representative, I cannot affect this change. I can try to work towards it. Right. But to bring our service members back to the United States and then set up a reactionary force, which is more in line with what we used to do, the Barbary Coast.
It's what we did in 41.
Yeah. And go kick the doors down and then come back.
Yeah.
And I mean, what has it gotten us? If we look long term at it, I mean, look at Europe. If the argument can probably be made that Europe has fallen or is on the brink of it, and the invasion is here also. I'm not super excited about all these foreign entanglements.
Well, I would say that the foreign entanglements have prevented a world war for 80 years. And that's been the United States.
Yeah. But where are we at now? Is that same approach going to take us the next 80 years?
Yes.
Probably not. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
We can do
it. Have to disagree on that,
and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
We can do it economically, but us continuing to send all this foreign aid to countries that completely hate us and then fund the invasion, that's not getting us another 80 years, in my opinion.
So you're not necessarily against us supporting Ukraine. It's all the money we're dumping. It's foreign money's going away from the United States in general.
Yeah. If it's that important, then and again, to go back to, we should maybe relook the War Powers Act and get back to constitutional, and instead of 20 years in Afghanistan with blood spilled and resources thrown away. And what did we get in Afghanistan? Nothing. Yeah. What did we get in Vietnam? Nothing. Yeah. What in Iraq? Nothing. So, Korea, what did we get there? So what we're doing is not necessarily working, and we continue just to try and throw lives and money at it. And so I think we can maybe have a different approach. I don't have all the answers for it, but what we're doing is not working. And we continue to make deals with those that do not have our best interest in mind. In this, so. As
you can see, with Hardball, we have
different
the
opinions.
Democratic side, we have the conservative side, so you're getting.
That's.
Now, this is more for something that I've learned in the commission world, that real policies are often more complicated than campaign talking points. I've definitely see where you're coming from, that there's a lot to learn, isn't there?
Sure.
And there's a lot of things, I guess, it's hard to promise anything, is it?
It is.
If you promise something, you're like, with that bunch up there, I don't know how in the world how do you work with them? Duke, do you have anything?
No.
I'd like to give Tom a closing. If you go ahead and do your closing.
To kind of caveat off what we just said is, with my background, again, assuming platoon sergeant responsibilities in theater as operation, it's a very steep learning curve. In other jobs, you take on different roles, not necessarily within your own career field, and you have to learn the job. And that's we have a congressman in his eighth term who was on with Matt Murphy at 99.7 last week, who couldn't even tell him where in the Constitution it was about the hemp. Why he was asked, where in the Constitution does it say they have the authority to regulate that? And you got a congressman in his eighth term that can't tell you, like, well, I don't know that it's in there. And the answer is it's not. That's the answer. And if you're trying to twist the Constitution, you at least know Article 1, Section 8. I mean, get us at least that close. So I will put forth the effort to learn deeper into not only the Constitution, but how things actually work in Washington, D.C. Because another example is in Bedford County with the walking horse industry. And I asked a gentleman out there, because they like Congressman Desjardins over there, but are you better off for having had him as a representative? Are you closer to solving that problem because of the work he's put in? And from what I can tell, the answer is no. So, and I already have come up with a couple bills on my own that then you get input from the walking horse industry, and then let's go. You figure out within Tennessee, start with your own coalition out of Tennessee, and then figure it out and get that support and push to get it passed, instead of what we get now is placeholder. That's what we got for the Tennessee walking horse. And then on the other side, my goal is to get us back to the Constitution and to get the government out of our houses, out of our pockets, and back to the contract that was signed between we the people, the states, in creating a federal government. And then outside of that, you can find me on Facebook, Tom Davis for Congress. On Instagram, it's Tom Davis TN4. A little bit on the X, Tom Davis TN4. My YouTube channel, got videos there. That's Tom Davis TN4. My website, TomDavisTN4.com. And I would, anyone out there watching, continue to ask the questions, engage with our current representative. And like I said, there is I think a striking difference between myself and a fellow Republican.
You acceptable to, we're putting the platform together for debates, and some of the ideas we're throwing around right now is to have it reflect like a courtroom. So, if you get a request to be deposed and you're giving a deposition, you're answering all the questions. So 10 days before you would submit those questions. And then when we get up for the debate, that's what we'll actually debate is your answers. Is that something that you would entertain with Congressman Desolé?
I would say yes. I kind of like what I have done as a town hall, and that is the questions were just submitted on the day of and given to the moderator, and then you get 3 minutes was the time or whatever, that you get a time limit to explain, just like my answering here. So instead of me bumping my gums for extended periods of time, you get 3 minutes to here's where I am on it. But I would definitely consider that. I mean that, and the questions ahead of time that makes it easy. So and I prefer to get them more on the spot. To be honest with you, it just if I was saying I picked up playing pool as a kid, just think long, think wrong. So put too much thought into it and try and overthink it.
I think we're having a good time because it's kind of we understand the political sport behind this and the debates. You learn so much when you listen to two individuals speak on a given topic. So we're trying to put it together, and we're going to be looking for recommendations from our audience to tell us if our platform is too strict or just to make sure it's excellent. Because next year we're going to have across the board debates for, I hope, at least, of course, congressman, senator, state rep if they want.
Yep.
But definitely for mayoral and definitely for sheriff and for commissioners. So that's the goal. But I know we will not see you again before the holidays. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you very much.
And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I
And we
appreciate
want
y'all
to
having me.
We want to thank everybody that streamed tonight. I did notice there were some periods where the broadband went out, so we may have some glitches in this. I apologize for that. That happens sometimes. But we thank you for coming on, Tom. We want to thank the Hudsons for letting us use their home. And again, we want to thank Sasquatch Farms for supplying the equipment.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Am I supposed to thank somebody else?
If you want to.
I will. You guys are talking. Thank you all for
Can I do a second closing?
Yeah, right.
No,
I missed my chance. No, I appreciate y'all having me on and doing this and putting it on. This is a great
Thank you for
asset to the
watching.
community, I think. Hold the pose.
Green is a good color when that turns green.
Oh.